Good evening. I'd like to call to order the regular town council meeting for Tuesday, October 26, 2021. Please rise for a moment of silence. The Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Fishbein.
Here.
Laffin. Marone.
Here.
Morgenstein. Here. Shortell.
Here.
Tata.
Here.
Testa. Zandri.
Here.
And Chairman Cervoni.
Here. Councilor Testa advised me that he has a conflict. Councilor Laffin is at home dealing with a migraine. Can I have a motion on items A through J on the consent agenda, please?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve items A through J on the consent agenda.
Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the consent agenda passes. Item 4, there are no items removed from the consent agenda. K was withdrawn temporarily. On to item 5, the public question and answer period. So far, just you, Mr. Gross.
Bob Gross, Long Hill Road. Question through the chair to the mayor. You had mentioned that you had gone out to bid for the Recovery Act money. Have you accepted a bid? Or hired anybody?
No one has been hired. We only received one bid. We will be reviewing that, probably interviewing and making a decision.
Any timeline on that?
As soon as we can organize the meeting with the firm involved.
Because from what you have said in the past, if I understand it right, you're not going to spend any of the money until you bring this person on board, and now we're coming up to November already. And no decisions have been made on how to even spend a penny of the money yet, because you keep saying that you're going to wait until you hire a consultant who will help you make those decisions and to write the applications out. So
Well, we need a consultant to make sure that we're following the law and the regulations. They're complicated. They require even monitoring of how an entity who receives the money uses the money. We need that expertise. We do not want to fall into using the money in an improper way and then having to pay it back to federal government or some other governmental agency.
as you know, some of the ways you can spend the money, and it's been rehashed many times, you can spend the money, meaning the town of Wallingford can make airflow better in here, technology, infrastructure, internet, and you could start doing some of those projects now if you wanted to. But are those on your plate?
I don't agree with you that all of those would be permissible under the Act. I also feel that the ability to provide relief funds to those who have suffered, individuals, small business, nonprofits, the tourism industry, that's the prime purpose for which the money has been entrusted to the town, and we should not end up without any money to support those potential recipients.
So essentially,
we need to do this in a logical order, and the first step is to hire the consultant and get advice.
So essentially the 13+ million plus whatever else could come from this, you want to just have it narrowly spent on that for businesses and non-for-profits.
I don't believe that's what I said. No, you're incorrect.
Then where did you want to spend it?
It is available for all legal purposes under the Act. However, we do not want to move forward with projects that we think are sure and risk them being ruled not proper expenditures, nor do we want to use all of the money on government projects and have nothing for the private sector, which has suffered sorely under COVID.
Nobody said to use it all, but you could use some of it for some town projects, which helps all the citizens of Wallingford by making town hall more accessible with the internet. In times of these types of things, I would assume that the town clerk's office would appreciate if there wasn't many people coming in there and they could correspond to people through the internet and do paperwork through the internet. And that wouldn't cost $13 million. You can have internet in the town hall. I assume you have internet in here now because of the, no internet in here. Then how are they streaming the YouTube?
WPAA has a line.
Here?
I mean, not WPAA. I am so sorry. Government TV has a line from that room.
I'm confused then. So they have a line from that room that you guys can't use?
It's exclusive to their use. They need all the bandwidth.
All the bandwidth? Because I remember Councilor Morgenstein, I think it was last meeting or meeting before, was talking about how she couldn't get a hotspot for her computer.
We have a separate line here
Okay.
that's waiting for equipment that's on back order to allow the council to have access.
So there will be internet in here then. Okay.
But it's a separate, dedicated line.
Through the chair to the mayor, did the Wallingford receive any money in the CARES Act?
Yes, we did.
And what did you spend that money on?
Money was spent on the protective equipment supplies. It was, I don't have the full list, Health Department used funds, the Fire Department. Off the top of my head, I'm not going to try to estimate, but CARES Act money was received and was spent.
And do you know how much you received in that?
I don't have a total here.
Did you spend it all?
I don't know.
Okay. Thank you all. Walk away.
Anyone else for public question and answer? Just you, Mr. Gross.
Okay, well, I gave it up in case somebody else wanted. Last meeting, there was discussion on the parking lot. Parking lots, meaning the private lot that the town paved in Simpson Court, and the public lots that are owned by the town that weren't paved. There was brought up, correct me if I'm wrong, you were saying that the bids came in much higher than you thought for the public lots, but in actuality, the bids, when you figured out the square footage, weren't higher than what it was done for in Simpson Court. So in the past 2 weeks, have you looked over that, and are you going to be doing the private lots this year?
I'm not sure what you mean by the private lots. All of it is publicly used to be used by the public. The public has a contractual right to use all of it. So I don't know what you mean by private lots.
Means if I owned a piece of property, it's my property. Yes, you came in and paved it, and I gave you a lease on it to use it, but it's still private. I still own the land.
It's not private property at that point. The lease allows the government to be using that for the term of the lease. That is no longer private
All
property.
right, but the question was, are you going to pave the public lots that the town owns?
We have 2 lots that haven't been paved. At this time, we're waiting to rebid and see if we can get lower prices.
But it was brought up last meeting that the bids were lower than what you paid for Simpson Court. The problem was it's a larger area.
We aren't going to agree on this, Mr. Gross. You know that.
No, I don't.
Now is not the time to be guessing at whether or not we received reasonable bids when all of the bids are high due to the holdup in supplies everywhere. The economy is in very difficult straits. Now is not the time to be spending money from where prices came in higher, and we do not have the money that we expected would be sufficient to handle the Wallace Avenue parking lot.
What you're saying is you're going to what you said last meeting is you potentially were going to rebid them in the spring. And so what you're thinking is that the prices are going to be lower in the spring than they are now? Petroleum will be lower and the cost of labor will be lower?
I'm hoping that we will have a more reasonable result from a new bid.
If you're hoping costs are going to be lower in the spring, it's going to be difficult, and I just hope you don't come back and say again, bids are too high, we're not going to do it. You said you would do those lots. It's not much more money. The money's available. You have positions that aren't being filled in town that you can use that money to pave a lot that the public uses all the time. It would be nice to see it be done, and you said it would be. Thank you.
Anyone else? There being no one, I close the public question and answer period. And we move on to item 6, which is discussion and possible action regarding the Wallingford para-educators, UE Local 222, and a whole bunch of other letters, the United Electric Radio and Machine Workers of America. Good evening. If you'd please introduce yourselves for the record.
Danielle Delizzi, Superintendent, Wallingford Public Schools. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Fran Thompson, the Assistant Superintendent for Personnel.
Thank you. And what do you have for us tonight?
So we bring before the council for consideration the contract, the new contract for the paraeducators union. It's a 3-year contract, and the process was very cordial. And as you can see, the wage increase is a general wage increase of 1.75 for each year of the 3-year contract, no step increase. In addition to that, the insurance costs, which were negotiated to be the same during the first year, this current year, and then have an increase in years 2 and 3. The premium cost share remains at 20% for each of the 3 years, and the annual contribution for from the Board of Education is a dollar figure as opposed to a percentage, and that change is a $1,000 contribution for individuals, $2,000 for families, and then there is some minor language change in the contract, which includes notification of any vacancies for the membership to have 5 business days as opposed to calendar days to indicate their interest. Also, in terms of voluntary transfers in a given school year, the members may request 1 transfer, and the board can give consideration for that, but is not obligated to do additional transfer considerations for the same employee over the school in a school year. And finally, in terms of the reduction in force and looking at seniority as a factor for moving paraeducators, we will also give consideration what's in the best interest of the student, meaning their needs as it relates to their programming and the paraeducators' training and qualifications. It was, as I said, there's not a lot of language change, and we were really pleased that we were able to put this together without any step increase and keep within the general wage increase, the range that we were hoping to have.
Thank you. Counselor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening.
Good evening.
The portion that you were talking about at the end about the best interest seemed very unusual to me. I've never seen anything like that before. Understanding that, a lot of these paraeducators are working with special needs students, autistic, which is an area that's close to my heart. I was happy to see that. And is the intent there to keep the uniformity? So if we had two paraeducators, one with somebody who's more difficult to acclimate to an individual, so that we would keep that individual, that team, and then the others would be subject to layoff or moving? Is that what we're working with here?
I think, yes, and I think it's important with this change, with this addition, come the end of the year, and we're looking at the turnover and the changes in staffing, that people know, the paraeducators know what's available and what's required. So there may be a paraeducator who is displaced from their role last year, but if you're dealing with a student with specific needs, they need to know what those needs would be if they wanted to request to be working with that child. And we would then take into consideration, do they have the training? Is the training been available? Are there other folks who are also interested that are a better fit with that student?
And then when we look at the best interests of the student, is this a process in which the parents are going to have an ability to weigh in on, or not?
Well, presumably they would as part of the PPT process. So when we're identifying the goals and the objectives and the disability and the needs for that student, at the table, in the planning team, is the parents are there.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but we're specifically talking about layoffs, potential layoffs. So if you have two individuals, it appears based upon this language that layoff of an individual who is part of a paraeducational team, the needs of that student may impact whether or not that particular paraeducator is laid off. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure, because I know that continuity is very
Very
important.
It is.
Yeah.
It is very important. And I think the parents do play a role in it. And so there is feedback all along throughout the PPT process, and formally and informally, that does occur. And so we do try and honor that, and to make sure that it's the best fit for the student moving forward. And so if it is requiring parent input, or they provide it informally, it is a piece that, it's not the only piece, but understanding the whole package of the fit along with it.
Yeah,
And
sure.
advocating for their child.
And as I said, it seems to be an unusual provision, and I would hope that other districts around the state are adopting this sort of philosophy. So I thank you for bringing it to us, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else in the council? Anyone from the public? All right. So this will go into effect without any action from us at some point soon, right?
I think it's 30 days.
30 days, yeah.
30 days, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your
Appreciate it.
time.
Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Both items 7 and 8 have been withdrawn from the agenda. Item 9 is a presentation from the Coalition for a Better Wallingford and Wallingford Youth and Social Services Department regarding Red Ribbon Week. Good evening. If you could
Good evening.
please introduce yourselves for the record.
My name is Ken Welch. I'm the president of the Coalition for Better Wallingford. My name is Jessie DePonte. I'm the Acting Executive Director for the Coalition for a Better Wallingford.
And my name is Marion Gracie. I work for Youth and Social Services, and we work together with the Coalition for a Better Wallingford as well.
Thank you. So we are in the midst of Red Ribbon Week, correct?
We are. I want to take just a sec to give a little extra kudos to Marion. Marion was on our original board 10 years ago and helped this whole organization form and helped the relationship develop between Youth and Social Services. So that can't go without saying, being noted.
Thank you for acknowledging her humility. So
Yes.
we are in the midst of Red Ribbon Week, and what do you have for us?
We are. So it started on Saturday. For the first time in 6 years, the police department, under Chief Ventura's direction, brought in the DEA Take Back Drug Day. So we were up there Saturday morning, midday, with Neil's Donuts and Dunkin' Donuts and handing out stuff to folks who brought the stuff back. It was a good success. It was nice to see that endorsement, having the DEA and the police department and the community working together. It's just a little more powerful than just saying, okay, you can bring your drugs back today. So it was nice to do that. The rest of the week, tonight we were supposed to do a Narcan training, but with the change in the schedule, we, with our meeting with the council, we postponed that. But I do want to speak to the Narcan training a little bit. The training requirements from DPH have loosened significantly. The training that we're planning on doing is a virtual training and a curbside pickup. But we have the authority to do the training ourselves for anybody who wants Narcan, and we have Narcan at the coalition all the time. So I want to make sure everybody knows that. We will have a specific date, but knowing that you can get Narcan if you've got a problem or a potential problem, it's just better to have it than not have it. It's life-saving. The third event is tomorrow night, sponsored by Youth and Social Services. It's an event called Hidden in Plain Sight. What it is it's a bedroom of a typical teenager or a potential typical teenager. And the bedroom is scattered with potential hidden in plain sight objects that the normal parent wouldn't view as hazardous. Shoes that have been altered, tennis balls, a number of other really kind of unique, inventive ways that kids get their drugs, alcohol, pills, and hide them from parents and then distribute them amongst themselves and cause a problem. So the purpose is to open this up to the community, let the parents come in. It's going to be at the Senior Center at 6:30. We'll be there with other information, a whole host of support information that we have on mental illness, very specifics about drugs, and there'll be someone there, walking them through this event. So it's always well received. We did it a few years ago. It's really kind of, if you have some time, it's really kind of enjoyable to see. You wouldn't believe the creativity. So, and then the last event for this week is on Thursday night, our historic Red Ribbon Week ceremony and recovery vigil. We'll have get the name right, Courtney Billings from, I want to say Judith Park's dance studio, but it isn't that anymore. It's the Dance and Music.
Wallingford Dance Academy, I think.
Wallingford Dance and Music Academy. So they're doing a demonstration. So we always get youth serving organizations to do their presentation with their kids, and we pick ones that are really supporting the effort to make them better citizens, not just teach them how to dance. And Courtney over the years has been a big supporter of doing that, so she'll be there. SCA will have their Adelante group. Anybody that knows Daisy knows that SCOW is doing a remarkable job with their teenagers down there. And they'll have a group on board. We've got the president of Calcaney showing up. So we've been involved in this for 10 years, and the epidemic has matured. When we first got involved, everybody was hysterical. Nobody really realized what was happening. And it was pretty easy to make a difference then. But over a 10-year period, the people that are using have increased, actually, and there are more people dying now than there were 10 years ago. But they're much harder to find. And typically, they're at a much older age, typically 45 to 65 or older. Recent numbers in Wallingford are even up above the 65-year-old age. So the only way we're going to continue to find that is to get the business community involved. And the people at Calcaney realized this a couple of years ago, and they started a statewide campaign. They opened up a real estate associates association with the sole purpose of educating homeowners on the ways that, these type of drugs might get into the hands of people that would misuse them. Typically in a house showing, distracted realtor, the partner goes into the medicine cabinet, ransacks the medicine cabinet, and away they go. It was a huge problem, and they virtually shut that problem down. We're having them speak to explain how that became a positive and hopefully get other business entities involved in coming up with the same kind of creative ways to get the message out there that this is a problem. You can die from this. And hopefully people listen to that. So that message is going to be important. And then we've got a guy who's been in recovery about 20 years who's going to tell his story and sing a couple songs. He's now making his money being a musician. Wouldn't you love to do that, man?
I admire him.
So we're looking forward to Lou. Lou's a little different, but he's got a great story. And then we're ending with a very important message, and that is a recovery vigil. So anybody that's followed the coalition in the last couple of years knows that we're trying to present a more positive image. We don't want people to be afraid of us. We want to be able to get rid of the stigma, but make a difference. So we've been trying to send a message of hope. Life is good. We can deal with these problems together. And towards that end, a recovery vigil and focusing on how important recovery is and embracing that is how this year's ceremony is going to end. So we're looking forward to that as well. With that, I'm going to, as we traditionally do at this time, if you could give us a couple minutes, I'm going to hand it over to Jesse. Let her give you a little update on things. We got a couple of very important messages, one that came out this morning that we want to share.
Hello. So as Ken said, we like to share with you all what we've been working on this year, the different projects and groups that we have going on, because we really appreciate the town's support, as always. So we have some long-standing groups that run each month, our Hope and Support group. We have a bereavement group, and we have a smart recovery group. So these are groups that are open to the public and available to everybody. Information about those groups can be found on our website if anybody's interested in sharing about that. We're trying to get some programming for middle school and high school students, after school programs off the ground. We're working on some funding for that so that we can make that happen, to create a safe, drug-free space for kids after school. That's free and open to them. As you most likely know, we are located right in the heart of town. We get a lot of foot traffic, so we're hoping that eventually kids have a safe space to come and spend some time and have some adult supervision. So that's something that's in the works once we figure out our funding on that. We've been participating in townwide events, things like Celebrate on Center, which was an absolutely wonderful event. We saw a lot of you there in town. It was really great. We've participated in the Gardeners Market, which has been another great event. We love working with the Park and Rec Department, and that was really great. We've been selling our Life is Good t-shirts, which each of you should have received tonight. So as we mentioned last year, we have a partnership with Life is Good. It's exclusive. We have a lot of rights to their merchandise, and that is thanks to Craig Turner, who created that partnership right before he left, and we're trying to honor that. They're a great organization that we've really enjoyed working with. We now have a storefront that actually sells Life is Good. All of the funding goes back into our programming, which has been really great. So it's a wonderful partnership. We did our summer What's in the Bag program, which shout out to the Rotary Club who helped us tremendously in funding that project. That was a project born out of COVID that provides family-friendly activities that are handed out at different places like daycares and camps. So each week kids go home with some themed activity. And as I mentioned, the Rotary Club was a big part in that. We handed out over 700 bags to different families. So that was a really great program, and obviously we distribute our own literature. This year we partnered with town organizations like SCOW and the library, and we helped to promote their information as well during that program. So that was really great. We are also working with Steve Civitelli on a grant that we received for the opioid crisis. We've got a retired pharmacist who is going out to different doctors' offices and doing lunch and learns about different opioid-related issues. So that is currently in the works, and that's been a really great effort. We'll be working closely with the Wallingford Public School. As usual, Tony Loomis has been tremendous help with us, and the school has always been extremely supportive of the work we do. We're trying to get off the ground a 40 developmental assets survey in which we survey all of the students in high school to try to get a feel for what drugs they're using, what's going on, and it's a very long list of questions, and it's great data for us to have as a coalition. So we are working with them on that. And then we always have our quarterly sector meetings in which we connect with our 12 different sectors of our coalition and just get connected to see what's going on in town and see how we can support any efforts or issues that arise during the quarter. I'd also like to mention a shout out to YSS, Marion and Gary and Mandy Miranda. We speak frequently. They are a fabulous department, and we really enjoy partnering with them. They've been a great help during Red Ribbon Week, and we are happy to be here, and thank you. Oh, the last thing Ken wanted me to mention here, yes. So we heard this morning on the news that there's a lot of candies that are edible marijuana that are coming out that look a lot like regular candies.
The ones on your desk are not. We put those there.
Yes.
But if I didn't tell you, you wouldn't be able to tell.
They are, so just be mindful this Halloween of any potential candies that look like candy but are not and could be potentially lethal doses for young children, which is kind of scary.
Yeah, there's already an uptick in the EDs with kids being brought in over this stuff. So the AG put a big notice out on the newscast this morning, and we're trying to help that along, so.
You mean emergency departments?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So in that bag of Fritos, for instance, there's 120 times a overdose level of THC for an adult.
It's a lot of THC.
It's crazy.
It is. So I wanted to ask you about the quarterly meeting of the 12 sectors.
Yes.
Are those geographical sectors? Have you?
Great question. So in order for us to be an established coalition, we have to have representatives of 12 different groups. So often we have religious organizations, youth-serving organizations, our regional, Ken probably knows them off the top of his head.
So business community, clergy, local government, family representative, youth representative.
A parent,
Yeah.
a media representative. So in order for us to call ourselves a coalition, we have to check in with these sectors regularly to make sure that we are, obviously addressing the needs of the community. Yeah. So we do that.
And is that who created that standard, that that requires you to do that to call yourself a coalition?
So the feds did.
Okay.
In the coalition generation theory, they want us to be talking to every sector in the community. We were doing that anyway, so it's kind of easy for us. Now we just formalize the meetings. They call for 12 sectors. We've added 2 in Wallingford because of SCOW and the veterans, so.
Thank you. You up for some questions?
Of course.
Councilor Fishbein?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to stay on the edible situation, because I know I've been watching that. And I know in the marijuana bill that I personally debated against for 7 hours, we banned the sale of edibles that looked like some sort of food product, right?
Yeah.
But did we, maybe you know, did we ban the possession of, okay.
No,
so,
I'm going to be up the State House for the next 5 years, trying to sort out the language on that ugly bill. I mean, there's
Yeah.
stuff all over the place on there, and that happens to be one of them. There's so many loopholes.
well, that one's going to get addressed. So,
Yeah,
yeah, tomorrow. So,
good.
yeah. Okay. Well, that's all I had. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the council? Questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, I want to thank you very much for your perseverance and hard work. This is a very important topic. I think you and I spoke, Ken, at one point in the last year, and you alerted me to the fact that the pandemic and the lockdown probably made the situation worse. You know, people holding up instead of spending time in places where they can conduct or participate in healthy activities. And it's, you know, it's interesting information to me that the age of the overdose death is creeping up. I suspect it's a variety of factors, but one of which is probably, you know, people who start using opioids legally and then can't stop.
Yes.
Exactly. So that's now our primary focus group. We're trying to work with the paramedics in town to get some definition on that in Steve's office. And they're kind of throwing their hands up. It comes out of nowhere. And the other group that we are seeing is these middle schoolers. They're just young enough to have no experience. So the fact that they're having to walk around with masks on and their parents are freaking out, they don't have the established mental capacity to understand that. And the next few years are going to be tough.
And I would also like to note, I apologize, I wanted to introduce Christina Barber, who's here with us this evening. She is going to be the president of the Mayor's Council on Substance Abuse Prevention. So she has been instrumental in our coalition efforts in this past year. She is a superstar, and we're really excited to have her on our team. So she is here tonight also with us.
Ms.
Can I mention something? As a
Please
person-
speak into the mic.
As a person who has watched the coalition grow for the last 10 years, and they are the most dedicated group of people, and they are people who deserve respect from every corner of this community. Because of them, so many children and so many adults have been able to survive this epidemic. And I can't even begin to tell you the efforts that have been made by the people involved from the beginning and who continue to persevere. I mean, they're a wonderful asset to not only this community, but to the world, because they are making a difference. Thank you.
We've certainly been aware of the partnership between Youth and Social Services and the coalition, and thank you for being here to represent the Youth and Social Services Division.
I'll just chime in with regard to the opioid and the advancing age. You know, a singular factor is that the opioid use did not have any long-term testing. As a result, it was prescribed. People with injuries, they became addicted, and hence we have a real problem. And the question is, with marijuana, no testing, and now let's open it up for anyone to use. We've got a problem.
Thank you very much. So we have a couple of executive sessions coming up, and I think we're going to break them up. Typically, we would call an executive session and just call all three, but because we are going to meet with the PUC, I'm going to ask that we go to item 12 first, and then we'll come back and we'll do the other two. So we're going to take one executive session before we do the meeting with the PUC. All right, with that, if I could have a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Section 1260 of the Connecticut General Statutes with respect to the purchase, sale, and/or leasing of property.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I declare the council in executive session. All right, call the meeting back to order. Can I have a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Moved.
We don't have a clerk. We don't have a clerk.
All right, I'll take notes. So I'm going to say Shortell moved and Fishbein seconded. All those in favor of coming out of executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, before you move, I think we're going to have the PUC call their meeting to order.
Mr. Chairman, Bob Beaumont, Chairman of the PUC, call the special PUC meeting to order. And I will ask for a motion to go into executive session for the, as pursuant to Connecticut General Statute 1-225F, 227-232, et cetera, et cetera. Is there a motion to go into executive session? Mr. Bernie made the motion. Is there a second to go into the motion? Meeting. Mr. Reinbold moved in. All those in favor of going into executive session for the stated purpose signify by saying aye. Aye. We stand in executive session.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, don't leave yet, because the council is still in public session. The motion to come out of executive session was made by Shortell and seconded by Fishbein. And now I'm going to ask again that the council go back into executive session.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the council go into executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 1-225, 7-232A, 1-206E, 1-201B, 5B, and Section 1-210B10 regarding commercially valuable information and financial information given in confidence and attorney-client communications regarding the Pierce project, and also executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes Section 1-206B and Section 1-225F regarding strategy and negotiations with respect to the pending litigation matter Quality Facility Solutions Corporation versus the Wallingford Board of Education.
Second.
Moved and seconded. So for the benefit of the clerk, the first motion was on item 13. The second motion was on item 10. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I declare the council back in executive session. the meeting back to order. Can I have a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. All of those in favor of coming out of executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I declare the council back in public session. We need a motion on number 10.
It's number 11.
11, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion. I have a question for Attorney Farrell very quickly. Terminology, are we approving the action or approving the settlement? What word the settlement? Thank you. I make a motion that we approve the settlement on the pending litigation matter of Quality Facility Solutions Corp. Versus Wallingford Board of Education as discussed in executive session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All unanimous. Motion carries. There being no further business on the agenda, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I declare the meeting adjourned.
Good luck to you all.
I don't know why I just turned off my mic.